Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit here, back again with Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. We're on episode 5 of season 1, and in the last episode, someone corrected me. So, last episode was actually the first Complex episode. For some reason in my head, I just kind of assumed that the first episode was a Complex one, because, I mean, now that obviously I went back and checked, it's like, you can tell the difference between what the two episodes are going to be based upon the screen that crops up. If it's green, and it'll say standalone in the green sort of background. If it's complex, it's blue. So the last episode was the only one that's actually been a complex episode. So yeah, I mean everything that I said in like the previous episodes, like 2 and 3 and stuff, specifically 3, because that was the one where there was this whole thing about possibly connecting to the incident that happened in episode 1, that all of that has got nothing to do with the main overarching story, really. So yeah, now I know that, we can just move on from it and just focus pretty much on the overarching story of the complex episodes. And now I'm wondering whether or not this one's going to be that, or we're going straight into a standalone. I'm going to have a guess and say that it's complex, this episode as well, because I feel like the end of last episode cut off quite dramatically, so I feel like we're going to just be continuing that. So we'll see. But there was one thing that I was talking about last episode that I actually got wrong. There was a they were talking about in the episode about how the Laughing Man took hostage a president. Now you have to bear with me, especially when it comes to like subtitles and stuff. It's hard to get like a grasp of certain things depending on where they are like in subtitle form, because when you have a show that is quite heavily like there's a lot of information going around, and the way that the Japanese people talk, they would put certain words in not exactly the same place as English people would say them normally, you know what I mean? So you'll find that so it's like some details that you would say like in a sentence that would be in English would be left until the end for English, but heavy details and things like that, like things that are important, tend to be actually at the front when Japanese people talk. So I'll write down something like, oh, he took the president hostage, and then in the next subtitle after that, I'm already starting to write down, oh, he took a president hostage. And then on the subtitle after that, he's talking about the president of the company, Serrano, what was it, Genomics or something like that. So it's the president of that company, not the actual president. So yeah, I mean, I talked about how he took the president hostage, and therefore, yeah, I mean, that just gives credence to the fact that he is this super elite hacker. But it was really just the president of that. And that is the same company that works with the interceptors and things like that, and therefore the connection there between what happened back then and now makes sense. So yeah, apologies for that. I've got it now. But I mean, this is kind of me just putting this out there so that if it ever happens in the future, bear with me. I'll more than likely get it right in the episode after, and I'll put it right and whatnot. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. I mean, they had the whole thing with the Laughing Man at the the press conference, and he was talking basically through another person straight to the Superintendent General, and he was obviously trying to sweep things under the carpet and whatnot, like he had nothing to do with it, kind of thing. And we could call bullshit like immediately. So yeah, nothing else to really talk about. We're just going to get straight into episode 5. And also, I don't know if you can hear it. I might turn that off actually. That's my fan. It's just because it's really fucking hot. So yeah, I think we'll just get straight in episode 5. If you do want to go watch the actual reaction to the episode, the link is in the description below. There'll also be a link to the full length there as well. If you do want to watch it in full and not just the 10-minute version, then the option is there for you. But yeah, nothing else to really talk about. So we're going to get in episode 5 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 5. Right, so interesting. I wasn't expecting that outcome from this guy Nano. I was thinking it was going to be a case of like just clear mistaken identity, or like, you know, like this would be a guy who either was taken over by the Laughing Man, or it was just a case of wrong place, wrong time, because everything just lined up with, like, you know, the fact of, like, you know, 6 years ago, this Nano guy was, you know, used to be like a far left activist or whatever, came in, made the micro machines, and then got fired after they found out about that, like, all of that, you know, activist stuff and everything like that. So it's very, like, convenient that he had this big motive to go against the company, and then that's what ended up, you know, Mr. Serrano himself, the president of the company, coming out into the, you know, that sort of the, like, in the middle of the news, right, at gunpoint, and yeah, like, it all fit the bill too perfectly. And I think that's what Bato was saying back at the very beginning of the episode, where he was talking about how, like, he's so guilty he's innocent, meaning that, like, you know, it's like it's too perfect for it to be this guy, you know. It all seems way too convenient, and I think that's what ends up being the case with is it Ishikawa, the guy who's in the you know, he's like looking into it through like that fucking big huge machine that he's looking through, and he's talking about how, like, it's all, like, all of these things have been tampered with, all the documentation's fake, everything of, like, you know, hacking into people and using them as, like, puppets in a way is it's crazy, and it's a scary thought that, like, you live in a world where you can just be fucking cyber hacked to the point where it's like people can just take over you and do whatever, you know. I mean, it's not just a case of, like, oh, just people can. It can be done, obviously, but it has to be done by somebody who knows what they're doing. But, like, I think that's what they were getting at there, was the fact that, you know, this guy had hacked them into seeing certain things that would, like, essentially, you know, give him a story of something that had happened. Basically giving Section 9 the runaround. Because towards the end, the whole point of him doing this was that I can now take credit for being the Laughing Man. Like, he wants that title. And that's just not how I expected it to go at all. Now, in terms of, like, you know, I guess there's nothing, there's no real meat to get into in terms of, like, in terms of theorizing, I suppose the one thing I do take away from this is, like, it doesn't feel like the Laughing Man is an entity. I don't think he's one dude. I think it's a collaboration of like anonymous people, and it's just like a group thing where they're not all in cahoots with each other, but they're all doing their own thing. Like, it's all like it just gives me that sort of feeling, you know. It doesn't seem like it's one dude, and if it was a case of being one dude back 6 years ago, I feel like now, specifically with this guy trying to take that title for himself, that it's almost become a cult thing. And I think that continues on with the fact of when Kusanagi went and got her external memories, and she was watching the news outlet, and, you know, we had this kidnapper come out with a gun pointed at Mr. Serrano's head, and he's able to hack people's perception of him, or anything really, but in this case it was him, to not see his face and it just be the icon, right? Be the logo that he's synonymous with. And that everyone that was a witness only saw that. And that after that, it became like it's almost like it was stuck in their brain of, like, you know, they were fascinated with it, drawing it, everything like that. That I feel like that is what It's the feeling I'm getting that it's like a cult. He's got like a cult following that is sort of, gathered since that incident, right? And now we're at a point where it's just like a group of people. God knows how many they are, but it's a group of anonymous people that can do this, or you know what I mean. And I don't know if there was one main culprit even 6 years ago, that if he has anything to do with it now or not, or if he gives them commands, anything like that. I mean, the thing is that he was talking specifically. There was the guy who was talking last episode, right? And he was clearly talking to the superintendent general, and he was talking about the comedy troupe, right? So it was him and two other people. And who could those people be? I don't know. We never got that in this, in this episode. But he wants them to tell the truth. Now, interestingly enough, he says, "I'm not with you on this farce." So there's something there with that's the connection, I suppose, between last episode and this episode. Really, is that the truth thing, right? Because that was what was said back at last episode. And then in this episode, in the news outlet, the guy was saying, "Tell the truth." So there's something with that, and I guess the motive for him doing it, I just feel like it has to be against society. I think that can only be their motive. I mean, that the idea of the laughing man anyway kind of gives it maybe some credence that it's just the fact that they're doing it for fun, and that's what it is. They're doing it for laughs. But I don't know. I feel like there has to be some element of they're just not happy with the way society is going. I guess I can sort of liken it to something else that has a cult following, or a certain character gets a cult following, like Joker, for example, right? So I'm talking about the movie Joker, right? So the idea is that society basically would throw these guys aside. Society doesn't do anything for them. Society is against them in every regard. And Joker's he comes out and he gives that whole spiel to the whole world because he's on live TV, and then all of a sudden you get all these people who are completely on board with him, you know what I mean, and they understand and they join him in that regard. And it's like you get this group of essentially followers, and they can basically do work in your name kind of thing, even though Joker's not there with all of the other people dressed up in clown masks going, "This is what we're going to do, you do this, you do that." It's more like a state of anarchy. And I just feel like, specifically with this Nanito guy, that's kind of what it is. It's not exactly the same as the Joker thing in terms of the cult and gaining some kind of following. Then I feel like that is what has happened. But in terms of this guy wants to take the mantle for himself, what it makes me believe is that he's just one of these followers that saw what happened back then and kind of ran with it and was like, I can sort of make a name for myself as the laughing man here and claim that title for me. But he may not be aware that there are other people out there that are exactly the same, and it's just, yeah. I mean, he had Section 9 running around in circles, and I think having people only see the icon and everything like that, and hacking into people like he did with the people at Serrano. I think he did with the guys outside of his room as well, and that's why he was able to keep an eye on as soon as Bato and Tagusa came in, that he was, he knew at that point, right? He'd had them all fucking. He just knew what was coming. He knew what was happening. So yeah, and I think actually in terms of what Kusanagi, the idea that she has these external memories that she can just go back and sort of witness again. Very similar to Psycho-Pass, because there was a similar thing in Psycho-Pass where you can go back through your memories and literally watch them again, So it's not just trying to remember stuff, it's you can literally see it. And that's fucking helpful. That would be a great thing to have. Great bit of technology. But I think it's interesting the fact that she does that. And I don't think it's a case of because she's a cyborg, she has like limited memory. Like, I mean, I'm sure she has like some limited memory, I suppose. It can't just, it's got to be stored somewhere, right? But I think it's more of a case of, because in this world you can be so easily hacked into, and everything that you know now other people know. And the fact is, because she is in this organization, this Section 9, right, it's like like the shit that they know can't really be given out as public knowledge and stuff like that. That if she keeps a lot of her memories stored away, it means that even if she gets hacked into, there's a lot of stuff that they don't know about. And I think that's sort of like a security procedure thing that she does specifically for that. So I like the fact that she does do that. And she stores it at a place where she has two women that she fondles with, which is, I mean, that's cool, interesting to know. Didn't know about that. So, and then we had like the fucking accuser guy. I can't remember who he was. The guy who's watching porn. Fuck. Wasn't expecting that this episode. But yeah, so I mean, Nanao, he had he knew the whole thing of everything coming up, right? I mean, the interesting thing is, Nanao specifically said that this is the reason why I feel like it's a collective group, the Laughing Man thing, right? Because Nanao specifically said, I wasn't the one that issued the threat. That wasn't me, right? So that was clearly someone else. Now, it could be a case of, if it's not a group, it's just that the Laughing Man, the one behind it, the actual true one, was that one last episode. Nanao, this episode, was not that same guy. And it's just them two, right? Nanao was just trying to take credit for it. And that's the thing that is going to be interesting, is if he ends up taking credit for it, and he gets done, we know as the audience it's not him. That's not the same guy. So it's like the case hasn't really been solved. And I feel like the likes of like the police and everything like that have all been, like hacked into, that there's no security really in the police or anything like that. And that's why Section 9 has to get involved, because all of this stuff is like being breached in terms of that, and you can't really trust anyone down there. So, I just feel like they would love for Nanao to be the one to be taken in. Almost like filling up the books. It's like, right, we've solved this case. But really you haven't. And you know you haven't. You know that's not the guy. Yeah, so, and, the fucking Home Affairs Minister, like, he's fucking iffy. I don't like him. Say everything in moderation. It's like he's just he's wanting to sweep shit under the carpet, and I just don't trust that guy, Don't trust him at all. And I think Aramaki knows as well. That's the reason why he was so pissed. So yeah, I mean, Nanao basically, like, knowing what was coming up anyway, he had pre-placed viruses essentially that he would just, it would be delayed, and then it can just be activated whenever he wants. Whenever people are in place, everything like that. Now, therefore, I guess Bato was right in that Bato was talking about how let's just rush in and get this over and done with kind of thing. If he had have done that, if he had have done that, Nanao could have still would have had time to press it, because they don't know where he is. But it may have interrupted in a case of, like, if they'd went in earlier, Nanao would have realised they went in and found out that that was just a doll, right? That was placed there. They would have radioed in to Kusanagi, and Kusanagi possibly would have made a ruckus in that place, and it wouldn't be a fucking shitstorm that it's about to become, So yeah, I mean, Bato was right in the end. And it's interesting as well, because I feel like Aramaki should know that this is not the guy. This is not the guy, right? I mean, everything was. I feel like everything was. Everything now that Aramaki does know, they've got to know that this Nanao guy is not the dude, you know. But you can get him on other charges, you know, because he's gone in and he's tried to, you know, he's basically faked all these documentations, everything like that. He has actually hacked into shit. He is causing, you know, chaos. He is committing crimes, but they've got to know that this is not the Laughing Man, right? They've got to know that, surely. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I've got. Like in terms of an episode, that's pretty much all I can talk about, because it wasn't really delving into other stuff more than it was just waiting out and seeing if we can get this Nanao guy, right? Because once we get him, we can you know, interrogate him and get some information regarding, you know, like the reason and why and what's going on, what do you know, and everything like that. But I mean, that wouldn't even do anything now. You can't interrogate him because he wants to be known as the Laughing Man, so he's just going to lie to you then, you know. Now, unless you can get into his memories and actually, you know, because I'm sure they can do that, right? Surely they've got to. I mean, depends. I mean, because he could be just clearly totally human, because he's doing everything from computers, right? It doesn't look like he was plugged in anywhere. I don't know. Maybe they can use that like thing around that the other guys they put around their neck to, so they can like sort of integrate with the system a bit, and maybe they can use that along with it. But I don't know. I mean, the fact that if he is purely human, that could completely derail that whole thing, and he can't get access to his memories that way, and so it's like he's just going to lie to you. I am the Laughing Man. You know what I mean? That's me. You got me. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I can't watch the next episode until tomorrow anyway, because I'm out of time, unfortunately, so I'm just going to have to wait until tomorrow. And yeah, I mean, the people watching this on early access, yeah, I mean, that's how it's going to be uploaded. This episode will obviously be out on the day that it's supposed to be. Episode 6 will be out tomorrow, okay? So yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you for watching. In the description below I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you wish. And I also have a Patreon page as well, so if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, like early access, $5 a month. It gives you access to shows a week early. That's for everything that I react to. There's also $10 there for full length. If you do want to watch them in full and not just the 10-minute cut version, then you can do with that. There's also tiers there where you can pay to have a show reacted to as well. So if you want me to react to a show, go have a look at those tiers, see what they offer. But that is all I got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.